Hey there, everybody. Just like clockwork, we are back with another Survivor video. Now we're talking week 11, looking at the picks for this week. A lot of disparity here in terms of spread. You see the Ravens at home, favored by almost 2 touchdowns. And as always, we're going to show about 9 teams here. So you're going to get back down to the 3.5 point favorites towards the bottom of the list. Pretty solid week for Survivor. If you avoided the Eagles, you took the best pick with the Chiefs. You stayed away from those divisional matchups. Obviously, disappointing loss of the Bills there too for a lot of people. But if you followed last week's video, you probably did well. I would hope, especially staying away from the Raiders, who are simultaneously good value but also a terrifying perceived caution. As always, taking a look at the week ahead, getting closer and closer towards the end of the season. So this matters depending on how you look at it and depending how deep you are with your teams. It either matters more and more each week as it goes by, or starts to matter a little bit less and less. It all depends on your situation and what teams you're holding on to in your back pocket. So starting out the week, we're taking a look at who do we want to proceed the caution with. The first one that I want to just point out right away is the 49ers on the road against the Cardinals on Monday Night Football here. Obviously, you know that I'm always wary of, divisional games on the road. That's one thing, but we really want to proceed the caution here because the status of Kyler Murray, the quarterback for the Cardinals, obviously, is very much in question here. Dealing with the hamstring injury and he's day to day. If Kyler Murray is not playing this one, it is obviously a much safer pick. But if he has announced that he's playing and active, even if he's hobbled, this line is going to move a few points in the Cardinals' favor. So it's definitely something you're going to want to consider and definitely something you're going to want to monitor throughout the week and even on Sunday. And again, this game is a Monday night game. So that's one just right away. You're going to have to monitor if you're thinking of picking the Niners there. Some good value there for sure if Kyler Murray's out, but you better be sure that he is. Moving on, the Chiefs at the Chargers here. Again, divisional opponent on the road. People forget that Thursday night football game, without the Justin Herbert pick six and arguably that rib injury he sustained there, the Chargers had the Chiefs on the rope in Arrowhead. That doesn't happen all that often. I know the Chargers are beat up. They're missing guys like Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, a lot of guys on the defensive side of the football. I understand. But these two teams have a lot of history. These two teams play each other very tough every time. The fact that the Chargers are at home really helps them out here. The Chiefs are red hot, one of the best, if not the best teams in football. And it's going to be a close game, I believe, though, despite that, just because the Chargers play them so well. It's tough to see the Chiefs losing this one, but anything's possible. But I think the Chargers being 7-point underdogs here is a mistake. I don't think the Chiefs win this game by 7. I expect to see a close game, a really hard-fought game by the Chargers here at home in the last game of the season, the regular season that they're playing the Chiefs. They very well could see them in the playoffs. One more divisional opponent on the road here that I thought I'd throw out there. Bengals at the Steelers, 4.5-point favorites. The Bengals lost week 1, and granted, it was week 1, and the Steelers team's a little bit different now, but they lost the week 1 at home against the Steelers. Now they're going into Pittsburgh to play them. That's always a little more dangerous. Pittsburgh's got TJ Watt back, who was a big factor in that first game. That's going to be a big deal. The Steelers got momentum beating the Saints. It's something that you should definitely be a little bit cautious about, especially for the fact that the Bengals lost the Steelers already once this year. Usually that means they're going to play them a little bit tougher, but the fact that they're on the road kind of balances that out. So I think the fact that they lost is a point for the Bengals' favor, but the fact that they're in Pittsburgh obviously clearly point to the Steelers. So going to be a close game between long-fought divisional rivals. Any matchup in the AFC North, always seems to be pretty hard fought, no matter who's on the personnel roster. You saw the Bengals go play the Browns earlier this year, and everyone thought the Bengals were going to steamroll them, and the exact opposite happened. So it's really tough to predict the outcomes of these divisional games, and always something to be wary about, as I've been harping on throughout the entirety of this season with these videos. Something to keep in mind, though, too, I'm not going to put the icon up, but this is also a good value play for the Bengals. I know, again, I'm saying something to be cautious about, definitely. But again, I said it couple of weeks ago when they were the best value. This is not a team that you're picking very often throughout the remainder of the regular season, and we'll see that when I flash up the schedule again. But if you think about it and you decide you can handle and stomach the risk of taking the Bengals here on the road, then I think it's a great value play. And finally, the last receiver caution, and this is probably the biggest one that you should be cautious about, is the Patriots hosting the Jets. here and only a 3-point favorite, which means if this was on a neutral field, then it'd be a coin flip game. If this game has been played in New York, then the Jets would be 3-point favorites. And that's really telling to me. Don't look at this game and think it's the same old Patriots playing the same old Jets, and of course the Patriots are going to win. The Jets have the number one graded defense in football. They're really sinking right now when Zach Wilson doesn't commit a hefty amount of turnovers. But I really like what head coach Robert Saleh is doing, and his defense is always giving them a chance to stay in the game. This line is so misleading to me, being -3. You just would never expect the Patriots seem to be even with the Jets here, but they are. And the Jets are right now a playoff team at 6-3. Again, the best defense right now, according to PFF in football. I think those signs point to me thinking the Jets are going to win this game, and I'd be very wary of picking the Patriots this week. Moving on to the best pick. Last week it was not the highest favored team, but this week it is with the Ravens 13-point favorites at home, which is very important against the Panthers here. Panthers, PJ Walker hurt, throwing back in Baker Mayfield, which I do think at times is an upgrade, but he's got such a propensity to commit turnovers and misread a defense that it's not a huge upgrade, if any, at quarterback. But the fact is that the Panthers, especially on offense, are just dying for some talent and production, and they just haven't really been getting it. And while Lamar Jackson and the Ravens sometimes make mistakes on offense, they are one of the hardest offenses to scheme against and stop. They're going to put up points. Lamar Jackson is going to find the breakdown of the defense to take advantage of it. And even without Mark Andrews, who may or may not play tight end, Isaiah Likely, the rookie tight end backup, is doing very well in that role. And John Harbaugh says he thinks of those guys, both of them, interchangeably like wide receivers. They don't play them like tight ends. So they had a lot of talent there at tight end, despite the production at wide receiver, kind of filling that and supplementing that offense. I think with Lamar Jackson too. And the upgrade of this Ravens defense, getting Roquan Smith, they're going to handle the Panthers here. And that should be a pretty safe pick if you have the Ravens still this season. If you don't have the Ravens, you're looking for some more value. I say look no further than the Saints playing the Rams here. This is less about the Saints being a good football team, as they just dropped a game against the Steelers, and more about a really good opportune time to play the Rams, who are already reeling as a franchise and a football team this season, but now they will be without Cooper Kupp, obviously their all-star, Pro Bowl, incredible wide receiver that is almost impossible to replace. We haven't seen this Rams team without Cooper Kupp, but when we do see him with them, he's in their entire offense. They don't have a great run game. They don't have a number two receiver that really dominates. It's Cooper Kupp creating a ton for this defense. Without him on the field, this Rams offense is going to struggle against their solid Saints defense already. The Saints with Andy Dalton and Alvin Kamara just go off randomly in some games. This might be one of them, but even if it's not, I think they have enough production and enough talent with the guys like Taysom Hill and Kamara for some gadget plays to put up enough points to beat this Rams team that is going to really they're going to really struggle on offense without Cooper Kupp. So I like the value there. Still a risk. This team's only getting a 63% chance to win as a home team too. That's not a lot, but I think it's a really good spot to get a Rams team that's going to be searching for its identity without Cooper Kupp and who is their entire offense. Again, look at the schedule too. You're looking at the Saints. You're not picking them against, playoff teams like San Francisco, Tampa Bay. At home against Atlanta is iffy, but the way Atlanta's playing, probably not. On the road against Cleveland with Deshaun Watson. On the road against Philadelphia, no. Maybe if you make it to week 18, you think you take him at home against Carolina, you could make that argument, but you're really not picking them that often this season. Backtracking to what I said about the Bengals, you're really not going to pick them this season. Just about everyone they play is a playoff team after this, except for Cleveland. But again, Cleveland's going to be getting Deshaun Watson back, and that's a home game against a divisional opponent. And then on the road against New England's never a great spot to be picking anybody for Survivor. So I really like Cincinnati for a value pick. Just this week is tough, but it's really your last chance to pick them. So that's something you got to weigh for yourself and think if you're really trying to go value, how much value do you go this week? We're talking about the other picks. Browns here facing the Bills. Bills 9.5-point favorites. Started at 8.5, so already the public getting on the Bills. I think it's a good reason why. They really let that game against the Vikings slip away. And credit to the Vikings for making that a good game, but Josh Allen has been not looking like MVP Josh Allen lately. I think they had a 17-point lead going to the fourth quarter, and they blew that. They're just not looking right. The Browns are good, but I don't think Jacoby Brissett is good enough to play against this defense. But the Bills don't know how to play close games. Every time they're in a one-score game, it seems like it's going not their direction. When the Bills win, they win by a lot. I think this is a good bounce back game for the Bills here against a team that's going to want to run the ball a ton with Nick Chubb with the Browns. But again, this front seven of the Bills is one of the best in the league, and this defense is one of the best in the league. So being as one-dimensional as the Browns offense is at times with Jacoby Brissett, I think it's a great opportunity for the Bills to bounce back. But again, Josh Allen not looking like Josh Allen, probably still nursing that elbow injury that he's not going to sit out because of it, but it's definitely affecting him. And it's just interesting to see this team start out so hot, look a little vulnerable. And then moving on to the Eagles on the road, coming off their first loss this season on Monday Night Football at the Colts here. Good game for the Eagles to bounce back. They really didn't have their stuff going for them. A lot of things went against them this game against the Washington Commanders and still managed to keep it pretty close. When you turn the ball over as many times as the Eagles did, you're not going to win winning games. That's something that they've done well this year, though. Not turning the ball over too much and not letting with the big play. They did both of those against the Commanders and still kept it pretty close. I think they're going to be able to go into Indianapolis, fix those problems, and be safer with the ball, be smarter with some of those penalties they kept getting at the end of the game. And the Colts here too, they just beat up a really bad Raiders team. But this Colts team still is without a lot of clarity around the coaching staff, where Jeff Saturday just came in. There's no one on their coaching staff that is a play caller. They put in Matt Ryan at quarterback because he's a veteran, can kind of run the show himself rather than Sam Ehlinger. But this Eagles defense is really good again in the pass rush. From the interior with Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox, and from the DM position with guys like Brandon Graham. If you watch the Colts at all this year, their offensive line is really struggling, and Matt Ryan is not a mobile quarterback. So I expect the Eagles pass rush to really bother the Colts here and affect them to the point where I think the Eagles get back to their winning ways against Indianapolis here. The last game we talk about here is the Lions. After a big win in Chicago against the Bears, taking on the Giants here. This one I struggled with. Borderline proceed with caution game. And the reason why is more on the Giants side. The record for them is deceiving. You think they're a really good football team, and they've been playing well. But then also, they pass the grittiness test, they pass the toughness test, but they don't always pass the eyeball test here. All of their wins have been within one score, 8 points or less, which is concerning. Is you want to see these guys, if you want to consider them to be a good team, start putting away teams earlier in the game. But also, what was really interesting to me, as I do put a lot of stock into Pro Football Focus in their grading. You look at the overall rankings for Pro Football Focus, the Giants are actually worse than the Lions here. And a big reason is because of the Giants' offense here. I know they're a really good run game, but the passing attack just has not been there for them. And vice versa for the Lions, they, especially with Amon-Ra St. Brown in, their offense and passing game is very much rejuvenated. So this is something, you would think that a 7-2 football team would be favored by more than 3 points against the Lions at home. This -3 line sounds a lot like a trap line to me. But again, the Lions always seem to blow close games unless we're playing the Bears. And the Giants this season at least seem to be able to, hold on to these close one-score games. So that's why I give the edge to the Giants here and don't have it as a strict proceed with caution. But something's definitely fishy with this line, and I would probably stay with it because it doesn't make too much sense to me, especially given that the Giants, again, are graded lower as an entire football team than the Lions this season. So something to really keep an eye on. So I hope I gave you guys something to think about. Obviously you got your clear-cut pick with the Ravens if you got them. Some couple value picks here with either the Bengals. But if you want to stay away from the divisional opponent on the road, I think the Saints at home is also a great value pick too. It's something to think about as you go on to week 11 and hopefully, again, one step closer to winning your Survivor Leagues.